There has been much discussion as to whether the media like the cinema create reality or only reproduce it. A sterile debate if we consider that every cultural expression is a child of its time and that its main references are directly related to the context in which they are born. The recently released film Joker, directed by Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix, is no exception. From a sociological, economic, and philosophical point of view, this film reflects some of the current debates on economic inequality, the unfair distribution of wealth, the decrease in state support, and the disintegration of the social fabric, and with it the loss of an important part of human solidarity, to mention only the most visible points and the consequences that this entails. But the presence of social criticism in a film comic related to the saga of the well-known superhero Batman from DC Comics is not new. In the trilogy formed by Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by himself and his brother Jonathan Nolan, there is evidence of this. In the movie Batman The Dark Knight, the Joker, Heath Ledger, says to Batman, Christian Bale, in the scene where the two fight in a building under construction and before the Joker is thrown into the void by Batman and then secured with a bat string, "You can't trust anyone these days. You have to figure it out all by your own, right?" Then as the Joker hangs from the said rope, he states, "You're not going to kill me out of some inadequate sense of morality, and I won't murder you because you are too funny. I think it's our destiny to do this forever." To which Batman replies, "Eternally you'll be in an insane asylum room." And the Joker replies, "We could share it because it will double the number of citizens who will lose their minds. Insanity is like gravity, you just need a push." In this scene, the abstract and eternal struggle between good and evil begins to become evident, in a close competition where the victims of the latter are mere pretext in the contest. In general, neither Batman nor the Joker show empathy or hatred for the victims unless they are directly related to them. The rest are just that, the impersonal rest stuck in the middle of the two opposites. On the other hand, the idea that both characters share the same room in the asylum leads to think about the thin line that separates them, even questioning the supposed insanity of the villain and the alleged mental health of the superhero. In another scene, the one where the Joker is in the police interrogation room, Batman asks him, "Why do you want to kill me?" And the Joker answers, laughing, "No, I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? No, you are the other part of me. For them, the citizens, you were just a monster like me. They need you now, but they don't. They will push you aside like a leper. Their morals, their cause is a bad joke. They will forget you at the first sign of trouble. I assure you, when there are difficulties, all these civilized people will eat themselves. I'm not a monster. I just know who they are." This dialogue is interesting because in the first few sentences it shows the intrinsic connection between the superhero and the villain, since one would not exist without the other. This deep complementarity is two sides of the same coin. In sociological terms, it could be said that both characters are the product of the same context in which neither the state nor its security and justice institutions are capable of fulfilling their ultimate purpose, the physical and patrimonial security of citizens, hence the need for an anonymous superhero to put things in order. The second part of the Joker's response has its core the criticism of the values of a decadent society that appreciates the superhero as soon as he is needed, but will do without him as soon as he ceases to be one. Beyond individual and social selfishness, it highlights the fact that in the end, both the superhero and the villain will be seen as the anomalous result of extreme situations, and that both will have to be set aside as soon as the water returns to their course. The last part, the Joker makes a prognosis about the civilized people who will eat themselves, emphasizing again the degrading context in which everyone moves and the existence of brutal competition as well as exacerbated selfishness and individualism. At the end, when Batman picks up and shakes the Joker asks Batman, "Seriously, you have so many rules and you think they'll save you? The only way to live in the world is without rules, and tonight you will break your only rule." After which Batman picks up, throws and beats the Joker to get him to tell him what he wants to know, where he's holding District Attorney Harvey Dent and his girlfriend Rachel Dawes hostage. It is at this moment when the superhero's action is disrupted. The Joker remains physically passive, enduring the punishment Batman applies to him, under the astonished gaze of the policeman looking through the glass and with the approval of Chief James Gordon. Without the rest of the plot to explain Batman's violent reaction, one might well think that he is the villain torturing his victim, further thinning the line between the two. In the third film of the trilogy, Batman The Dark Knight Rises, another villain, Bane, Tom Hardy, delivers in front of Blackgate Prison and the crow of villains a speech that will be put in the mouth of a modern-day social fighter, guerrilla fighter, or politician. Bane says, "We're going to take Gotham City from the corrupt, the rich, the oppressors of generations who have kept you subjugated with promises of opportunities, and we will give it back to you, the people. Gotham is yours, no one will interfere, do as you please, but start by taking Blackgate and liberating the oppressed. Let those who want to serve come forward. An army is about to born. The powerful will fall from their decadent nests and be bought into this frozen world we know and endure. We will hold trials, and the spoils will be divided. Blood will flow. The police will survive when they learn to serve true justice. The great city will endure. Gotham will survive." This is when the dystopia or anti-utopia make its appearance, and the resemblance with the social reality of capitalism and its degraded neoliberal state becomes undeniable. In the villain's discourse, the elements of a supposed fictitious society are drawn, undesirable in itself, on one in which society has been divided into winners, the VIP, and the losers, by an economic, political, social model that has generated great wealth at the cost of the welfare of 99% of the world's population. An example of this is provided by Richard Sennett in his essay The Culture of New Capitalism, when he states, "Inequality has become the Achilles heel of modern economy. It comes in various forms: enormous compensation of top executive, widening gap between the salaries at the top and the bottom of firms, and stagnation of the middle income strata relative to the elite. Winner-take-all competition results in extreme material inequality." In this way, the villain, be it Joker, Penguin, Riddler, or Bane, is trapped on the side of the losers, and the superhero, in this case Batman, Bruce Wayne, on the side of the VIPs. Again, no losers, no winners. In this case, Batman's function is to preserve the existing order, which involves the defense of private property, of private and public money, of acquired goods, without necessarily questioning their origin. In the end, he is one of the privileged of the system as well as its victim. The death of his father and mother should not have happened. In an ideal society, both would have lived to see their son grow up, and Batman would never have existed. However, Gotham City is far from being the ideal society, but a dystopian society that creates and recreates in a constant chain the villain and the superhero. And Batman, too, is not the popular hero who will free the masses from misery and injustice, but the superhero of those who have goods to defend. What a twist! Batman, the hero of neoliberalism. Thus, Nolan's Joker, in the midst of psychotic excesses, and Bane, with his brusque appearance, represent the social criticism of the unprotected, the abandoned, the forgotten, the leftovers, of the system, who happen to be the majority. However, the criticisms present in two of the films of Nolan's trilogy does not stop there. Behind it lies a clear or veiled, depending on the point of view, warning about the possible dystopia, the eternal confrontation between good and evil, but not in philosophical but in factual terms. At this point, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker makes his entrance to raise the tone of criticism and warn about the future of a dystopian society present in the comic as fiction but that can already be glimpsed in urban centers around the world. Joaquin Phoenix's performance is masterful. That actor realized in the Joker the dream of every histrion, to get into the skin of the character without splitting, without doubts, without space for him. Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker. For its part, the film perfectly reflects the psychosis of a man who is a product of a sick society, transformed into the ideal breeding ground for the emergence of all kinds of mental disorders. If one wants to continue thinking of rebellion and revenge as madness, that which is like gravity and only requires a push. The film also has other virtues related, of course, to Phillips' direction and Silver's script, the photography, the light, the color, the music, etc. I will not reproduce here scenes or monologues or dialogues from the film as I did with the other two. However, I can say that the Joker is not satisfied with questioning society or with robbing or intimidating his victims. He goes further within his supposed madness. He takes revenge by taking the lives of people who abused him in one way or another. His action generates unexpected consequences that lead again to think about the possible dystopia in the warning of a future to come or a present that we don't want to see. In this case, the Joker movie takes to one of the possible extremes what Nolan started in above-mentioned films. He identifies, single out those who abuse the weakest and kills them. The message is that it doesn't matter the afterwards, the guilty of violating the rules and most elementary norms of social coexistence are punished, because in the end, as Ledger's Joker said, you can only live outside the rules. The plot, however, evidences step by step the fact that led Joker to become an antisocial, a murderer. And it shows how, with the example of a single individual, one can exacerbate class antagonism, a Marxist would say, or the difference between winners and losers, we would say today. Both Joker and Bane are villains whose criminal careers were forged in the heat of a society and a state that have neglected the welfare of the majority, generating all kinds of side effects such as crime, guerrilla, social protest, peaceful or violent. They also represent individualism as a supreme value of capitalist ideology in its maximum expression, to the point of leaving individual alone, without handles, without the support of primary groups such as family and friends, and without the protection of a boss or company, of the state itself. According to Sennett, a blank page opens before individuals where everything is yet to be written in the absence of a life story, which can be studying, working, retiring. This page introduces the amorphous time, the absence of certainties or handles. It is a limbo where people find themselves isolated and without a vital story, and where everyone faces the prospect of being adrift, says Sennett. This is how Joker becomes what he ends up being when he is left alone and adrift. On the other hand, the superhero Batman in this case remains trapped in the comic book, in fiction, until the moment when a social leader or politician manages to condense the virtues of the hero, of the warlord, and moves the masses in favor of a supposedly attainable project. But it turns out that sometimes politics, democracy, and government are not enough to reverse the damage done to the way of life of population in need of superheroes, and so justice by one's own hand arises, executed by masses who lynch alleged thieves, rapists, or kidnappers, or lone individuals who become vigilantes like Batman. It is then the dystopian society portrayed in two films of the Batman trilogy and in Joker is today a reality in the process of sharpening the conflicts between one social class and another, that of the winners and that of the losers, those pushed, as the Joker would say, to be villains and to seek justice by their own hand, violating all the rules of a peaceful coexistence and settling accounts without any restraint to members of the upper class, whether they deserve it or not.